So the first thing that we should talk about is the feedback that everyone gave us, and just kind of how we chose to resolve each point of feedback that we got. I remember CJ talked about fixing our audio, so I know we went back to the video and made sure everything was equal audio. And what do you guys think? How else do you think we approached that?
Well, I thought it was good that we got there like a half an hour early, plenty of time to just make sure everything ran smoothly and the video was playing without pausing, and all the volume on that was perfect.
Yeah, I think we also made sure in terms of the music we had in the background that it was like a good volume in comparison with the volume of the actual, like us talking, to make sure they could fully hear what we were saying while still like having fun with the music.
Okay. Yeah. And then any other feedback do you guys remember?
The other change we made when we did the evaluation form, so since we were in like a gym, instead of handing out all the pieces of paper, we just made it more interactive and asked everybody, and then everyone demonstrated also that they knew what we were doing. So
yeah, that was better because there's like nothing really to lean on. They were all kind of like in a semicircle group and kind of just sitting wherever.
Yeah, and they actually did get really involved. They were answering all the questions and getting them right, saying things like hinge at the hips, which was awesome to hear them know that stuff.
Right.
And they knew what it meant.
Yeah. Also, we were definitely prepared when Dr. Amir was telling us, just know, like, they might be like, oh, okay, I squat all the time with, like, 300 pounds. Why do I have to know the proper form? And so, luckily, nobody did that, but we were definitely prepared in that way.
Yeah, and I think especially since when we did walk in and we saw them squatting with weight ahead of time, we were like, oh no, like what kind of things could they say? But they were all actually really involved and wanted to learn the proper way, even though they already had like a basic understanding. They were really engaged and involved the whole time.
Yeah.
And then I guess the last thing too was that people mentioned maybe we should change our video in the beginning, like the hook, because we had a professional basketball player, and since they were in high school and college, maybe we would want to tailor it more towards that level. But when we were looking through the videos, we couldn't really find anything, so we stayed at that level for the video. But they were all actually, we got them hooked right away with that video.
It's definitely very impactful.
Yes.
They definitely reacted to injury, and they were like, oh, they're going to be faking it, whatever, and then it was like totally like a real clip, like this is real life.
So next we're going to talk about how we felt actually receiving that feedback from our classmates. So I think the first thing we noticed was, at least for me, it was really nice to get that positive feedback. I thought it felt really good knowing that the project that we created was beneficial and that a lot of people did understand it, and it was interactive, so everyone was engaged, and that it did, for the demographics of high school athletes, that it did stay within that realm, so it was good for them. I thought that was really good to hear.
Yeah.
I definitely think it was interesting how different types of feedback came about. Everybody had such a different perspective on what they thought we should fix. Something as simple as, just changing the audio so it sounds more synchronous, or somebody just saying, maybe you should try cooking them with somebody more relatable to them. So, it was like very different spectrums, which I always find very interesting.
And it felt really good too when people made like constructive feedback. They weren't just like criticizing like our project. They did give us like pointers on what we could do better. So that definitely made it easier.
Yeah, I thought it was really professional how everybody was using like proper language, like saying like, oh, I thought you did this really well, and something to help you, like if you enhance this part of your project, I think it'll be better on the delivery or something like that. I thought it was professional in that way.
Okay, so next let's talk about the feedback that we gave to other groups and how it felt to be like on the opposite side of it now.
I definitely found myself having an easier time telling certain people feedback. I think it's just people that I talk to more and I spend more time with. It's definitely a lot easier giving them constructive feedback, because when it's somebody you don't know, you tend to like try to ease into it a little bit. So definitely the people that I hang out with the most, I gave them the most constructive feedback, where the others I tend to be a little nicer. That's just something that I found personally. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so. What I was trying to do when I was paying attention to their presentation, I was kind of had like two separate columns of like things that they can improve and then things that they could that they did really well. So that I know like people say like compliment sandwich, but kind of having stuff that I really think that could improve their project, and then things that I really like to just like boost, their morale.
Yeah, I think it felt really nice to give feedback because these are our classmates. We're trying to give them other ideas of ways they could improve their project. So when they did go out into the community, it was more beneficial for whoever they were presenting this to, so they could understand it more and get more out of it, especially since groups were like teaching women that are pregnant how to sleep properly, and people teaching other people like how to go up to stairs properly. Like those are really important things. So it's really important for those people to be able to have the best strategy on how to teach people so they can really learn from this.
Yeah. And going off what you said before, like knowing people more, I think like earlier on, like here, it was a lot harder to give feedback to people. Like I definitely have gotten more comfortable like with this group of people, so it's gotten easier. Because I hate like saying negative things about stuff, but it's always better. And like you said, giving them like ways to improve.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about the different teaching styles we used and how our audience reacted to it. For one, I think we definitely tailored it to global and sequential learners, because in our video, we first did like the squat just all together, and then you explained it slower, and then we even then broke it down step by step even more when we were being interactive. So, they could see it all at first if that's how they learn, and then also breaking it down.
What do you think the response to it was?
So I think they responded really well to it. You could see that some people, they started doing it right away, like because they responded to global learning, but other people did wait until it was step by step to do it like that. So I think we did get everyone.
In like terms of when we're doing like sensing and intuitive learners, I definitely think we did it more towards sensing, especially when we did like the first video, telling them like, hey, this is real world. If you don't take proper care of yourselves, you tear your ACL, and that like kind of ruins. It could possibly ruin the rest of your career. I don't know how well we addressed the intuitive, just because ours wasn't necessarily a very abstract thing. It was very much real world application. But I think because they are within that realm of being athletes and stuff, I think it definitely tailored towards their demographic.
I think we also tailored to visual and audio learners, because visually we had the big TV screen up with our PowerPoint, and we also had all the steps written as we said them out loud. So kind of any type of learner was able to follow along with that. And I think you definitely could tell some of the athletes were getting really involved on what was on the screen. They really liked to watch it, and other people really liked to just hear what we were saying. So I kind of think it tailored to both people.
Something else that we definitely included in our video is the active versus reflective learners. So active, we actually had our whole entire video was interactive practically, and then the beginning part where I have a voiceover and it's going through like each kind of joint from the ankle, knee, hip, back. That was really for reflective learners, kind of being solo, thinking about it in their head, kind of silently like that. And then after that, Daniela took them through step by step, and we did it as like an interactive video, and they were able to stand up and do it. And then even at the end, we had them partner up and then do an activity together to further those active learners.
Yeah, I think putting them in groups of 2 also was good, so they could work together rather than in a big group.
Right.
Yeah, overall, I think we really did hit all of the main learning styles, and I think we did a really good job at trying to address all of them to make it easier for everyone.
Yeah, they were definitely really engaged. And,
Yeah.
and when we quizzed them after, you could tell they were paying attention because they all knew it right
Everything.
away. So.
Definitely made it easy for them to learn.
Okay.
Next.
All right.
Okay, so let's talk about what was effective of our presentation. So I thought it was really effective because when we started the interactive video, everybody stood up and was really paying attention to the positioning and especially the foot position, and everybody was rolling their feet out and in and making sure they had those points of contact.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout that entire portion, I thought they were really engaged.
Yeah, and then when we split them up into groups and they were doing like one-on-one with each other, you could hear them all. They were like being really hard on each other, so it kind of like, especially the boys, but they were like correcting each other exactly how we wanted them to. So I think that definitely like enhanced the learning aspect.
I definitely think I found it really funny that when we asked them, like, what are you supposed to do at each point? One of them was like, you're supposed to hinge at your hips. And I was like, oh, you're actually paying attention. And then, like, I asked her, I was like, do you know what hinging was? And he did, which was, I don't know, it was interesting. And, like, I was like, oh, you actually listened, which was nice.
Yeah, I think it was also really nice that how at the end of the video when we were cleaning our stuff up and they started their workouts, we saw some of them getting back into their squats, and we saw them like doing the correct positioning at their feet, like aligning their knees and hips. So we actually saw what we just taught them. They were like implementing it into their routine. So it was really nice to see like what we just taught them. They were already using it. They weren't just listening and then forgot about it.
So yeah, I think if we were to like do it again for this that same group of people, I feel like we definitely could have made it a little bit more difficult. Like even just wording, I mean, you could tell they were picking up on the terminology so quickly. Like I think we could have like taught them more. I mean, we were really basic, like even with just like the muscles, like, you could tell they already knew what those were. So I think we could have made it a little more difficult.
Yeah, I think going off of that, like Jesse, I know when you said like how your clinic has strength and conditioning aspect associated with it, and how there were high school athletes who were going off to college, all different sports, how they would be working out, and we could do it with them. I was like, oh, okay, but I assumed they still had some issues with their squats, or they weren't completely taught it the correct way. But then when we got there, like the strength and conditioning coaches, they were very informed on all the correct positioning, and they were implementing that with them, and they were doing like high load squats correctly. So I think if we could have researched into that a little bit more beforehand, exactly what they were doing, we could have tailored the video a little bit more towards a level that was better for them, a little more like complex.
Because then I think if we would have made it more complex, we could have made it a little bit more of a competition for them. Because I think just the body weight, obviously, like Dr. Amir said, it was just, they feel like that's a little bit beneath them. So if we made it a little bit more complex, we could talk about, how weight affects you when you're doing the squats and stuff, or just like a box jump or something, just made it a little bit more catered, and I guess maybe even engage them even further than what we did.
I think we definitely underestimated them.
Yeah.
There's so many things there that we could also use as like a variation. So like once they have that basic squat down, like maybe we could even be like, okay, like do it with a band. So do like the crab walks, or do like jump on this box, or do it with like the oscillation bars that they have there. There's so many different variations that we could have put on top of what we just taught them, that I think that they would have been more excited about that.
Yeah.
Lastly, we're just going to talk about how we can change our presentation just to tailor to different demographics. So I think for a younger population, I actually think that our presentation was really good for a younger population, or even just not as skilled athletes. Just because they seem to catch on so quickly that I think they could have handled a lot more, like we said earlier. And yeah, I think that's just personally what we could have done.
Are there any ways you could have changed our video for a younger population?
Yeah, I definitely think just like someone was saying earlier, somebody's like very timid when you're younger. So I think the scare tactic would have been a little bit too much. I think just telling them, maybe you want to get better to get into a high school program or something, that definitely would have been a little bit better approach.
Yeah, I think some of our wording too that we used, like align your knee with your second toe or like hinge at your hips, that may have been a little too complex for them. So maybe we could have also just like simplified our words.
And if we did for an older population, I think also that the video, again, like the scare tactic of the knee injury, wouldn't apply so much because if they were older, not so much into sports, but we could focus more instead on like more ADLs, like picking things up, like stuff like that. And we could have still used a scare tactic, but like injuring their back and like not being able to, pick up their kids and stuff, like tailored to more of activities that they do rather than the sports side of it.
Mhm.
So I think that's what we could have changed for an older population.
What about something different?
So for if we wanted to change it for a certain culture, I know some certain cultures they can only have males speak to them or only have females speak to them, and they have to wear certain clothes, and they feel uncomfortable if we were wearing certain clothes. Also, they're not very. We're very used to touching, putting our hands on people all the time because we're practicing PTs, student physical therapists. So when I was going around and like putting my hands, it said keep your knee back when you're going. Don't let them go over your toes. Like that's something we wouldn't be able to do. So we would definitely have to dress like whether it's conservative or maybe talk to like just girls as a group because I know we had both boys and girls, so that's how we could change it culturally.
I think another population we could have used this presentation for would be like healthcare professionals, except we wouldn't have tailored as much to sports. We could tailor it more to their occupation. I think a big one could have been nursing because like my mom's a nurse and I know she's always having to do transfers and sometimes there isn't someone else to do them, so she has to do it on her own. So I know how important it is for them to have proper body mechanics in terms of being able to not hurt themselves and not hurt the patients involved too. That's a really important concept. So we could have also used it for them.
So why don't we just summarize what we thought was really fun or something that that was hard or difficult during this whole process?
I personally think just because I have my brothers are at the age group within what we were in, so it was interesting the parts that they picked up and the stuff that they were just kind of like glazing over. There's certain parts of like the presentation. Some of them were like interactive and some of them weren't. So I think there has to be an easier way to maybe capture all of their attentions all at the same time. But with that demographic, there is that like certain like spaciness that you kind of just have to deal with.
I think for me, one of the biggest things was I assumed when I heard high school athletes, I assumed they wouldn't all be as advanced as they were. So I think a really big thing is in the future, if you are going to be presenting something to a specific population, do some research within that one facility before you present so you really know exactly what you're walking into and exactly how you should advance things ahead of time so you know how to tailor it to them specifically, not just that high school athlete big term. Narrow it down more towards specifically those individuals.
Yeah, I think overall, like, this project just, like, helped reinforce that, like, how to teach different people. Because, like, we all know, like, we learned last summer, like, what our different learning styles were. So we were kind of aware that there were different. But I think, like, the other side of teaching other people and presenting information, like, to tailor to all of that was good to know. Because we do, like, in our career, we're going to be teaching people all the time, like, and then, I mean, even just, like, also our in-service, like, we eventually have to do in our clinicals. I feel like this was kind of good practice for that, too, like, creating a presentation on a topic and making sure you keep it, like, simple and not, like, going off on too many tangents and everything. Like, I think that was good for that also.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed overall this project and, like, working with you guys, and we were able to go to a place, like, where I was pretty familiar with, but I was more over on, like, the PT side, and, like, they were all on the athletic side. So it was nice to, like, really get to know them and how they incorporate squats into their routine and how they were really polite and didn't have anything negative to say about it, and the planning portion that we all did together, I thought was really good, and we had like really good communication with everything, and we all met, we all presented it to the class, and then met to present there. I thought everything was pretty smooth for the most part.
Yeah, I think we were all really proactive with this project. I think as soon as Dr. Amir told us about the project and that we would need to find a topic, we all contributed, found a topic right away that we agreed on. Jesse, right away you said we could do it at the facility that you're used to, so that was great. And then we all met up multiple times to get it done, so we were all really involved. It's not like any of us couldn't come, so we had to take on other parts. It was all equally distributed.